You've come to the right place. If you're a course creator looking to build more impact, income, and freedom, LMScast is the #1 podcast for course creators just like you. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I'm the co-founder of the most powerful tool for building, selling, and protecting engaging online courses called LifterLMS. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMScast. I'm joined by a special guest, Vito from wpfeedback.co. It's a visual communication tool. So if you build WordPress LMS websites for clients and you're trying to make it easier for your clients to communicate with you and do revision requests and have better conversation, we'll get into that later in the episode. But first, Vito, welcome to the call.
Hi, how you doing, Chris? Thanks for having me.
I'm excited for this conversation because we're going to kind of go behind the curtain a little bit. And I want to start with Vito and my story, how they're kind of similar. We're product people. I have an LMS software. You have a visual communication tool for people building WordPress sites. But at the end of the day, we started as freelancers, and it's been a journey. Like, what was your progression into getting into this whole website thing, and how long has this journey been for you?
So I actually, the first website that I built, I was literally 14 years old, just at home in my parents' place.
How long ago was that?
That was 20 years. Yeah, 20 years last month. And it was, like a skateboarding website for my crew back in the day on GeoCities, if you remember that platform. Then I kind of like left that aside because I wanted to be a musician. So I pursued that for a lot of years. And that what actually got me back into it eventually. So I had a band and we were touring the world. It was doing pretty well. We were touring all over Europe. We did like 2 albums worldwide and stuff like that. But the problem was that there was no money in it, So we were touring and playing in front of people, but still we couldn't make ends meet. And so I started building websites for clients, literally from the back of the van while we were touring the world on the road. And that was my start. That was the beginning of my web design business as a freelancer. Then once we turned 30 and it wasn't really cool to hang out with 4 other smelly guys in a van anymore. That's when I kind of, we stopped that part. And then I said, all right, let's see how big I can make this thing. And I started growing that agency. I was a freelancer at first. Within the first year, we got to 6 figures in revenue here in London. And within year 3, I already had a team of 12 guys in my agency. And through our problems and through my kind of struggles of scaling past 10, 12 people, I found that no matter where I looked, all our problems came down to client communications. That's what was wasting most of the profits within the agency. So I became obsessed with finding a solution for this. We tried everything, and then we ended up building our own, and which exploded now. That's what is WP Feedback.
That's awesome. And just for the listener, if you don't know my story, the quick version is similar to Vito's. In 2007, I started blogging just for myself and a niche, outdoor leadership. I was actually living in Alaska, and a lot of the stuff I did, there wasn't even a cell phone signal where I lived. And over time, I wanted to be able to live anywhere in the world, and have location freedom. So I developed the skill set of building websites for clients. After I learned, hey, this is not that hard. I'm a non-developer. I can build sites using WordPress. I evolved from freelancer into agency owner. And then we focused our agency on the membership site, online course, training platform, coaching industry, and, really focused there and grew, and then later built a product off the back end of that. So it's a very similar story.
Yeah, very much.
These 2 gentlemen that are talking to you today aren't product people. I mean, we are product people, but we didn't just start with product. Our DNA is in the freelancer and the agency.
Yeah. I would even say that this is the natural progression, like if you want to scale things up, I see a lot of product people that jumped these stages, that didn't serve people, that didn't do the agency part of it, and they have a lot harder, growing the product and getting that traction compared to us, because product is like the easy life compared to the agency world.
Yeah.
So once you go through that, this is just a walk in the park.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear in my head, like it's almost like from working with so many clients, like you develop this empathy and you kind of feel
Yes.
the pains and the frustrations, and that really informs product. So if you look at, Vito, with WP feedback, it's had a lot of success quickly, but I
Yeah.
know you have all these voices in your head and real conversations that you have, that you really understand the pain points that some of these people building sites for clients and having it become a successful project. It's not something you have to go out and research because you live and breathed it for so long. I mean,
Exactly. You
I'm
are
sure
the
you,
target audience.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So especially if it's your first product, software product, that's super helpful to scratch your own itch. I see people that do that have higher odds of success than like, oh, I see an opportunity over here to
In a
make
different
money.
market. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not zen with the problem. That's
Exactly.
a big disadvantage. Well, let's,
And I'll say even more than that. We only have one life, so you better do something that you enjoy doing. And if you're solving a problem that you had. It's a lot more powerful. And I've been there before. I tried to jump into an industry and do whatever I wanted, try to make it work there. But then you find that there are people like us within this industry that has been there for more than 10 years and have the level of expertise and the level of knowledge within this unique niche that we will never have, going into it from a fresh start. So yeah, I would say always look into your own experience to see what you can learn from there in order to take you to the next level instead of starting something completely new.
yeah, that's a great point. Well, for those of people listening that build websites for clients or are thinking about doing that, especially in the online training niche, there's this pain point when you work with an expert, and I've worked with a lot of them, from like yoga to real estate to
Right.
business to personal development, all these different niches where there's a cognitive bias, to get a little geeky on you, called the fundamental attribution error, which means
Okay.
that if I am good at something like building websites or dog training or yoga or real estate or whatever it is, that I kind of think, since I'm good at that, I'll be good at this other thing too and be able to do
Right.
it. And there's like this tension between the
The Michael
website.
Jordan effect.
What is it called?
The Michael Jordan effect, where he thought it can do everything, but
Yeah, there you go. That's a good name for it too. But like the website builder, is good at building websites and like marketing and stuff like that. And the expert is like really good at their thing. And they're like, I just
yeah.
want a website. I want to be able to sell my course online, or my membership site. But then there's this conflict that happens. Can you talk about that intersection?
Yeah, sure. So this is actually something that people experience across the service industry or the sector. Even it doesn't really matter what you do, but when you're serving people that are new to the topic that you're actually delivering the service in, you're going to find that the difference in reality is creating a lot of frictions. What I mean is that when we look at a website, we don't just see a website. We see the color scheme, we see the layout, we see the functions, we can see the code through the screen. We basically see the matrix. But when one of our clients is looking at a website, all they see is like a rectangular box, right, with some colors inside.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of, we need to start from there to really understand how to communicate with someone. If we realize that that's how they see what we're seeing in 3D or through the matrix, as I like to call it, then it's a lot easier to communicate with that, because then all of this nonsense about, oh my God, this guy doesn't understand what the hell I'm talking about, like he's got to be stupid or something like that. You kind of take on that responsibility as the service provider to understand that it's something that we need to deal with, and we need to eat that complication for the client so that it's a smooth process for them. So instead of forcing them into some kind of a technological process that we create, as techies, we like to complicate things. We love complicated systems. That's part of our thing. But on the other side, like you said, there is a real estate guy or a yoga instructor or like we talked before, like a dog trainer that's doing an online course. Why would they know how to approach this project from the beginning? So that is the initial essence of what our tool is trying to solve. This is where we started this. And then we started looking at the two types of people: the client that is have no idea how to look at a website, and the developer that has a lot of technical needs to actually deliver this project.
And I just want to talk about, like, there's two types of people out there, and you have a choice, and to make it really dramatic, you have to choose like hate or love. And if we take it out of this industry and look at something different, just as an example, if we look at building houses, or let's say you're building a house with a builder, or you're doing a remodel or something, you'll hear people say things like, oh, everybody hates their contractor by the time it's done. And you'll hear, if you're in the building industry, you'll hear people say like clients, homeowners are terrible, they're awful.
Yeah.
In between these two is a business exists.
Yes.
If you have good clients, and as a freelancer or agency, if you have love in your heart, and there's this big divide between our different realities, there's a huge opportunity. And
that's so true.
Yeah.
Now it all clicks, like what you mean there. Because if you start from the hate, then the entire process is just a nightmare. Why would we do it to ourselves? Why would we not love the other side? That's a great point.
Yeah, and it's easy to like in the web industry, you'll hear people complaining about clients, and if you're a freelancer agency owner, you'll hear people coming in to your services asking questions, and they talk about how they had such a bad experience, and the trust is like, their trust is down, they're a little jaded, they're upset, they need a little more help from you to trust them, which is actually a big opportunity in how you can position yourself in an industry just like home construction, when you build websites where you can have a better way and present a better future and a better working relationship.
I agree. And I think that if we look at it, even from the contractor point of view, it all comes down to the communication. So if you have a contractor that tells you that things will be late before they are late, then it wouldn't be as hard as to hear it like 3 months after you missed the deadline. That's a miscommunication. And that's usually what happens with contractors, right? Or if something is not going to be delivered on time, or if something needs a little more attention than it should have. That lack of communication is what breaks down most relationships in this world. And I even like to look at this like, if you bring it down to the most basic aspect of it, it's a game of catch. If I throw the ball at you and you don't catch it, you're going to blame me that I threw it wrong, right?
Right.
You don't want me to catch it. You just threw it over and you get upset. I get upset because we have no game and everyone is pissed off at each other. So like the point is to try and get to a scenario or a system where when you throw the ball to the other side, they want to catch it and they can't catch it because it's they can actually see it and it's within their reality.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about the problem of like lingo and words,
right?
Like if you're building a house, like the contractor's going to know all the names of all these parts that you have never ever heard of. Same happens with a website where, if the web person starts talking about PHP and CSS3 and all this stuff and what they're going to do with the templates, the client doesn't necessarily have the skills, or they don't have the lingo. They don't understand it. And if
and why would they? They shouldn't.
No, that's why they're hiring you. So, and if, but they also may need some help figuring out what they want. So you kind of have to anticipate, you need to ask some questions in ways that they can understand to help pull out so that your best guess becomes the website. And then you need to have a conversation over that. But, can you tell us about visual communication versus verbal, like words?
So that's what we found. So when we did all of these kind of testing around all of the different options of which are to communicate with clients, we found that visual communication works best because you can explain something not only with words like you're describing, and you can show something. So sharing your screen or having like a video call, even now that we're doing this conversation right now, even though it's going to be recorded mostly for sound, it's nice to see you. You know, it brings a lot into this conversation, the fact that we can see each other and have that communication visually. So the idea is to take this concept into the website and bring it to the point where the client can actually point at something and tell you what they need changing, what they want to do. That's why, when you do when you have that delivery process that has the sitemap as the architecture event at the beginning, if we're going back to the construction example, you start by communicating that basic aspect of what the structure will be. That's the blueprint or the sitemap in our case. Then you go on to do the prototype, which are the foundations of the building, so they can also see another step of what's been going on. Giving those visual stimulations is a lot stronger than telling them, listen, we're going to have a whole page and we're going to have like 3 custom post types with 2 taxonomies and it's going to have 5 categories in each. The guy already lost you.
Yeah.
But when they see it, there's a flow chart in a visual sitemap that just all clicks instantly. So bringing a lot of the visual feedback, aspect into the relationship definitely helps in communicating any aspect of that process to the client. I would even say more than that when it comes to these small bits and pieces that we have to ask for, like what is the screen size that you're on? What is the browser version that you're on? Sometimes you ask what the browser is and they tell you, browser, yes, I'm using a desktop, right? That's the answer. So trying to not get into these conversations, not needing to ask these questions actually will help you a lot in your relationship. Asking for screenshots, asking for URLs. This is not something that most people that don't sit in front of a screen all day long know what the hell we're talking about. So we got to start from there and keep the lingo out. It's not for them. It's for us in these kind of talks where we can openly talk about custom post types and, LMS, even that term, I guess,
Yeah. So when you like kind of have love for a client as opposed to hate, you realize that it's going to be a process, not an event, to deliver a website for a client.
Sure.
And like, if you navigate the client expectations of like, hey, we're going to have these revision cycles and it's going to be an iterative process where this website evolves, but I need your feedback as we go to make sure that we're heading in the right direction and I'm getting insights from you. You're learning from me how I think about building a great online experience through a website. But we need a way to communicate. So WP feedback, just to kind of get away from the lingo right now, go to wpfeedback.co to see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But essentially,
I would say if we're getting away from the lingo, I would describe it in a sentence as like post-it notes for the live website. So the simulation is like you're pointing at the screen and telling the other side what's up. It just binds that request to the div, so you know exactly where the request is.
Yeah, and there's 2 ways you can do it too. You can do it. You can just like have the client do it as homework, like asynchronously, not at the same time. Right. Or like when you're having that review call with the client, you or somebody on your team can also be on the call, like on the Zoom or however you're communicating. And as the client is talking, that you're dropping these post-it notes or these pins to capture the feedback visually, like, oh, they don't like this. And you might even be translating what they're saying and, oh, maybe we should add this over here. There's a lot that can go on there.
Yeah. And that can be passed on. If that's the process and the project manager, let's say, is doing that, that can be passed on to the designer then to sort out without having it like in a spreadsheet or a list. But what we recommend is actually asking the client to do this. So we designed it in a way that will be approachable for the most illiterately technological clients, so that when they see the website, they see this big plus button, and we train them with just one sentence. Please click the plus icon and choose any element on the website to tell us what you need. That's it. So even though I said that videos worked best for us, the disadvantage that we found there is that when you have this conversation face to face, usually what happens is that after you do a few changes, if you do the changes in real time, then the client quickly becomes like the navigator of this conversation, and his hand is basically placed on yours. He's moving the mouse and you're just doing the work. And that's really bad for creativity. So we wanted to get that out of the way. So you can tell them there is a revision. Okay, now we're done with the initial design. Go to the website, click the plus icon and choose any element on the website. Tell us what you need. They're going to sprinkle those stickers all around the site. Then you go back, you close that process, and then you go through all the changes in one go. And it's just super efficient from that aspect because you have it where you need it instead of looking for it in fragmented emails and stuff.
Keep listening. This podcast is not over. This is just a special message about this episode's sponsor, WP Tonic Managed WordPress LMS Hosting. Think of it as everything you need to have a professional online course training platform right out of the box, ready to go. Find out more about WP Tonic's Managed WordPress LMS Hosting by going to lifterlikes.com/tonic. Now back to the show. Yeah, just to highlight that efficiency. I mean, if you don't do it this way, the painful way to do it is to send a link to some development site by email to your client, like, hey, let me know what you think. And then you get back like paragraphs of stuff, or
Nothing.
You jump on a call and do it live and you do it at the same time where they're just like talking about it.
Yeah.
But you're trying to figure out like what they mean by that. That's really painful. But if you do it asynchronously and you do it visually, they may take like an entire week or weekend to like slowly and methodically go through. There's no pressure like, all right, we've only got 30 minutes or an hour for the call. They could take as much time as they want. And then the feedback, lands. And when there's not that pressure of we're meeting. And like you said, I love that analogy of having somebody's hand on your, like over your hand, moving the mouse.
Yeah.
It can go too fast. And maybe it becomes harder. Sometimes as a web professional, you need to push back and be like, I hear your feedback there, but have you considered that this making your logo 10 times bigger or whatever might actually hurt the user experience on your website?
Exactly.
But
it's not about accepting everything. It's about giving them the opportunity to be heard. And that's with every customer service. That's what people want. They just want to be heard. Even if you don't do exactly what they ask for, because you have a different way, a better way. So I agree. This is kind of the essence of it. In terms of the timing around revision round, what we found is that if you don't put a time cap on it, it just lingers. It just stays for sometimes even years. We now with our customers, with our users, we heard of stories that people waited years to get feedback back just because they didn't give them the right process or the right system. They didn't give the client the right system to actually deliver the content in an easy way, or the revision. So do limit this. What we like to do is we give it 7 days because, like you said, a lot of people like to do it over the weekend. They take the time with it. So we give them 7 days. That's the revision round. If there's nothing after the 7 days, then it's done. We close this step within the build because there's still deadlines to maintain, so you can't just let it go forever. But having that time kind of frame actually activates the client because we all need deadlines in life in order for us to do actions. So that's a great way of nurturing that. Once you get the stuff in, you just get the notification saying that people have done it, that the other side has done it. Then you just turn it off for them. You start working on your side.
That's awesome. I have a question for the advanced user out there.
Yes.
Who's like, all right, they're trying to put together their package. We do this type of membership site for clients. It comes with, this is our like discovery process.
Yes.
This is our build process. This is our revision process. This is our deployment process. Once you become advanced as a freelancer or agency, you start developing these clear systems that you use. But when it comes to revisions, I love that idea of like, we're going to go through a revision cycle now. Your project came with 3
Yes.
or 2 or whatever it is. And we're going to go, week 1, revision 1, week 2, revision 2, whatever the cadence is. What happens, or what advice do you have for people in terms of quantity problems where, let's say, they get like way a lot of feedback that's like almost like we have to start over, versus somebody who
Right.
gets like no feedback?
Right.
It's not like the perfect amount of feedback. We either like really, they don't like it at all and everything's just kind of on fire, or I have a client who's being quiet. Maybe I knocked it out of the park, or maybe they don't know how to communicate, or they're scared to critique my work or something. So
Those are 2 great points, and these are concerns whenever you go into a project. Having those systems in place, having discovery, our steps were, you do the discovery, then we do the sitemap, then you do prototype, then you do the build, then you launch. This was the framework. So each one of these has had a deliverable and a signature by the client, so that you can move on to the next step. This really helped solve what you described, which we call the scope creep, right? Someone that just wants more and more stuff as the project goes along, and it never ends. And we all fell into this hole at some point or another. It's gonna happen. But having these kind of steps in place, well, okay, when you do the sitemap, you agree that these are all the pages. Any other pages are out of scope. It's out of the project. So you already agreed on what pages you're going to have. Then when you do the prototype, you already agree what the layout is going to be like. And so then once you get to the actual revision process, the design revision process, then it should only be like small bits and pieces. We never limited people on how many stuff they can send us. But like we said before, it doesn't mean that we're going to do all of it. If they want like a massive logo that is taking 50% of the above the fold section, then no.
yeah.
If they want some colors that have problem with contrast and all these kind of stuff, then no, there's a better way of doing this, and we're going to provide a solution. I see us as, if the client presents a challenge or challenges the design, it's not that this is what we need to do. It just means that something is bothering them there. But also going to the beginning of understanding that the reality is different. Probably the way that they describe it or the solution that they have in mind is not as good as you would have if you just put your mind to it for just a few minutes. We're taking feedback, but we're giving our own solutions. And this is actually something that I see now in the product world as well, Chris, when we get feature requests all the time.
Yeah.
You don't do what they tell you. You think of the concept or what led to that problem of them needing this feature, and then you build it within your own vision or your own North Star, as I like to call it. We're just solution givers at the end of the day. That's the game. So I think that answered the question.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I had an idea pop into my head as you were talking as well, which is you could say, it's going to be this week and
Yes.
up to 10 hours of development hours revision. And that way you've literally capped the downside of that. But then that leads to the next question, which goes back to love versus hate.
Yeah.
Do you love scope creep? Most people would say no. Do you hate scope creep? Most people will say yes. It's the bane of my existence.
Right.
But if you put your stuff in the right like parameters as a freelancer agency owner, you love it because that means more money,
more work. Exactly.
and and if you navigate the client early, like this is how it works. You're going to discover things, and later you're going to be like, hey, can you move this wall over here in the house? Be like, that's scope creep, but that's going to be an extra $30,000 or whatever
exactly.
it is. That way they're not surprised when it happens. That doesn't mean you don't throw in little bonuses to just delight them. But if you do that too much, if you do it too much, it becomes a big problem. So
I totally agree. And these steps are there to just define this wall is here, so that when this comes, you can confidently charge that extra 30K, like you said. So it's very important to have this, but you actually want these clients. you want people that are using their own website and that are engaging with you and that are on it, because these are people that will actually build a business online compared to the other people that, some think that, or a lot of people think that you just splash a website on the internet and that's it. I'm a millionaire the day after, right? So getting the people that understand that it's work, that you're building like building a physical shop, just online. Or a digital school, instead of a physical school. Then these are the ones that will come back and build more landing pages, add more features to their membership area, create multilingual or create like multi-currency functions in the future. All of these kind of awesome upsells that we're looking for, when we're trying to run a business long term.
Yeah, because what people really want, especially if they're already moving and successful with their expertise, is they want a technology partner, not just
Yes.
somebody to throw up a website. I mean, if done well, they could be with you for a long time.
Yeah,
And
for years. Like
yeah,
we had clients that we started we did their first website, and we're growing together. Now like they were just a guy in a room, and now they have offices and stuff, and so do we. And yeah, it's part of that's the fun part of it. When you look back and you see those clients that stuck with you. And that relationship didn't go bad at some point, which unfortunately you will have some that it will.
yeah, and part of that too is just qualifying your leads or figuring out who you want to help and serve. For example, this is why the opportunity is so awesome in the online learning industry, is because the website is the business, or at least a part of the business.
Yes,
It's not just a brochure. So this is something that's very valuable to the client.
it's
And
there to generate revenue.
it is, which makes it really valuable. And if you have
Yes,
expertise in that area and you can remove friction and help them be their technology person, there's a ton of value and mutually beneficial for you, them, and their client or students or whatever.
I agree.
So
And it's such a growing industry as well. Like the online courses is just exploding at the moment, isn't it?
it is huge. And if if you focus on a niche like um, dog training or yoga or business, whatever it is, if somebody is already, let's say, like a speaker or running these workshops or live events, and they're tired of living on planes and
Yeah,
sleeping in hotels or whatever, and they're trying to automate and bring things online,
yeah,
that's a really good client because they've already got money, they've already proven they can help people with their expertise.
right.
There's a lot of value you can add to each other.
For sure. And I think that comes to what we said right in the beginning, where if you find those people that you know that they are legit, that they live their niche and this is what they live and breathe, then you know that there is an actual potential there. And you see that with clients through an agency all the time, the ones that just try to jump into something that they never touched before, or the people that swam within this industry for decades before they took that step of going on their own. And it's a clear path to success when you do that.
Another great thing too with working with somebody who's already moving and making money is they're in their way, they're an entrepreneur as well. So
Yeah.
it's not just an idea, like they're already moving. So
Yes.
there's going to be some mutual understanding of how the process works. And even things like it's not about what I like or you like, it's about what the customer likes and what they
Yes.
want and need. That's what entrepreneurs figure that lesson out. It's not about our
Yeah.
preferences. So
Yeah. It's not our preference or what the neighbor's wife said.
yeah, there's more of an open mind there. Well, that's awesome. Tell us anything about WP feedback that you think makes it super special. And I don't know, any other final thoughts for the people that
Sure.
are building LMS websites for clients? They want to use WordPress for that. And yeah, what are your thoughts for the people whose curiosity we've piqued in this
Right.
conversation?
So I think that the first thing to really consider is the fact that 94%, we did our research before starting this thing, and we surveyed 600 WordPress professionals to see how they run their own business. And we found that 94% of the ecosystem are using emails still to do all of these communications with clients. It's either emails or spreadsheets or Google Word documents, but it always goes back to that email, to that inbox. Email is a 30-year-old tool that we're using as our main driver of business. We don't have any other tools in our toolbox that are 30 years old. Something needs to evolve from there. The point about WP Feedback is that we're trying to look at that communication process from the web designer, from the WordPress web designer's point of view. So a lot of the features are there to systemize the way that you communicate. Even small stuff like the one-click login from the dashboard when you're doing websites at scale. And when we have in the agency, every team member goes into 5 to 10 different websites every day. Logging in is like 2-3 minutes each. Then it adds up to a few hours every single week. When you have a team of 12, then it's already a salary by the end of the month, right?
Right.
Of people logging in and out of websites. That's how crazy it is when you really think about this. But also the back and forth and wandering around the website, trying to figure out where that page is that the client described, what that section is, that misprint that they told you that there is on the third page somewhere. So bringing it into the website is a completely different way of doing this that just solves this problem as a whole. And I like to look at this like, Chris, and we started building websites a long time ago before we had page builders and, a Yoast and these kind of tools. We did everything manually. We actually wrote the code, the HTML, we added the CSS, or we added the meta tags to do the SEO and all these kind of stuff. Now these tools have systemized the process. And that's what WP Feedback does to your service delivery. It systemizes that entire process in the same way that before page builders, we built a page in 10 hours. Now it takes 30 minutes. That's the kind of impact that we're seeing here, which is, it was mind-blowing to me as well when we actually started using it like that. So it's just, we're seeing about 3 hours saved per week per team member, and reducing 2 weeks from your project completion time, which means that you're getting paid faster. That it's just the right way of doing it, as far as I see. In a couple of years, there's not going to be any other way.
Man, I wish I could take you back in time to an earlier version of myself with this tool. Go check out wpfeedback.co. Vito, I want to thank you for coming on the show, and it's great to be on the journey with you.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Well, when we started the process, I reached out to you when I just started and asked you some questions about the product world, and you were super helpful. So, I'm proud to be here on the show, and thanks for having me.
You bet. And that's a wrap for this episode of LMScast. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I hope you enjoyed the show. This show was brought to you by LifterLMS, the #1 tool for creating, selling, and protecting engaging online courses to help you get more revenue, freedom, and impact in your life. Head on over to LifterLMS.com and get the best gear for your course creator journey. Let's build the most engaging, results-getting courses on the internet.